So today is Monday, June 23rd, 2025. I am the interviewer Amy Moritz with Loretta Young DiCarlo at the Lockport Public Library. A true pioneer for girls track at Lockport High School, Loretta was one of 3 girls who competed on the boys' team for several years before the creation of a girls' team. She went on to qualify for the first New York State Girls Track Championship and competed in back-to-back state championships in 1976 and 1977. She was elected to the Niagara County Community College Hall of Fame in 1987 as a member of the Lockport High School Hall of Fame and has coached track, volleyball, and cheerleading at Lockport. Hi, Loretta.
Hi there.
Thanks so much for stopping by to talk with me today.
My pleasure. Thanks.
So first, tell me a time that you remember falling in love with sports.
As long as I can remember, I've been a sports nut, sports enthusiast. When I was a kid, all you did was played outside. From the time you got up in the morning until you went in for dinner or lunch, whatever. And we had a lot of kids in the neighborhood, and we had a huge field right next to our house. So we thought we were all-stars. You know, we had equipment between all of the kids in the neighborhood. We had our fair share of equipment and our own football field, and played outside with the boys, mostly the boys. There were more boys than girls, forever, but just until we got called in at night. And I remember, I think I was 12, and my mother said, it's probably time for you to stop playing with the boys. And I thought, well, I'm better than they are at all the sports and running around. And, you know, Red Rover was very popular back then, and we just had a riot. There was no girls team or boys team, that's for sure, but it was just outdoor, kicking around, pickup games, whether it was baseball, t-ball, football, basketball. We had a net, and that's all we did was played outside. The good old days.
Did you have a favorite?
Well, I didn't have a whole lot of talent, but the only thing I was really good at was running fast. Pretty good coordination, but I could run fast, so they'd throw me the ball and I'd take off. Obviously, probably I would have to stick with running first. I didn't have a lot of exposure to organized sports, as you know, because there just weren't a whole lot. But I was always game to try and watched what I could on TV, and had older siblings, so every once in a while I got to go to an activity that they were watching, so I got more exposure. But I grew up in the West End on Crosby Avenue, and I went to North Park, so we were really quite separate from the high school and all the activities that were going on then. And the kids at Emmett had more of an advantage because the football field was right there. And, you know, we didn't get rides all over the place back then. You walked, and pretty much you were in your neighborhood. I was very involved with Lockport Little Loop football and cheerleading, obviously. And for as long as I remember, and then when I was older, I ended up coaching cheerleading for Lockport Little Loop, and then onto the high school and things like that. But my whole life has pretty much been sports oriented.
Now, you mentioned cheering for Little Loop.
Yeah.
Like, I want to talk about cheerleading in a second, but tell me about, like, there weren't a lot of organized, was there anything organized? What opportunities were there for girls who wanted to play or be active?
Cheerleading. Cheerleading was most available to us. Also, the parks were open back then, the neighborhood parks, Crossy Park, Atwater Park, where we played softball as soon as we were old enough, and we traveled from park to park on our bikes. So we did get exposure to softball. I would have to say it was pretty limited back then. There weren't a whole lot of club organizations, things like that, travel teams like there are now. And the Keenan Center was still ice skating in the winter, and they had other activities over there, but pretty much it was the ice skating, and it was all recreational at that point. There weren't a lot of opportunities for girls. In high school, I was reminded by the athletic director how many times I knocked on his door and said, when are we going to get volleyball? And when are we going to get field hockey? And when are we? And he said I pretty much wore him down and didn't have a lot of options, so I decided to try out for the track team, back then the teams were huge. Lockport was a lot larger than it is now, population-wise. The high school was bigger, population-wise, and I begged two of my jock girlfriends to come out. Charlotte Payne, Charlotte Craig, and Cindy Gregory. And it was great. I mean, it was just us. We competed against the boys. We had to play with the boys. And, of course, all the boys ran their best times when they were running against a girl because nobody wanted to lose to a girl because boys can be rough and tease a lot. I do remember running against the boys my whole first year, part of the second year. But the second year at Lockport High School, we recruited like mad. Probably over 100 girls came and tried out for the team. But I do remember one time, I was younger, my sister's boyfriend was running track and field. And I don't know, I ended up at the meet, and there was a girl out there. I didn't know it was a girl at first because it was a boys' high school track meet. And I saw her run, and I thought, I can do that. So anyway, it really encouraged me. I'm sure she had a horrible time because there were no girls back then, just her. I think her name was Cindy. I was very impressed with the fact that she was out there with all the boys. And after that, Lockport High School, senior high school's track team was huge. We just recruited. I knew a lot of my peers said, we got to do this, whatever it took to talk them into coming and participating. Ended up being a really good time. And the team grew from there. It was fabulous.
So, oh my, that's a great story, and so much that I want to ask you now, a follow-up, so many questions. So tell me about knocking on the athletic director's door. And
Yeah.
so it sounds like you didn't have the opportunities, but you were looking for them to create those opportunities for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, that's where my strengths were. I was a fast runner. That's about it. So I wanted to take advantage of that fact. And again, I love sports. Didn't cost a whole lot to participate in the sports. You needed minimal equipment for track and field, some spikes and some sneakers. And, excuse me, lost my train of thought. Where were we going
We were
with this?
talking about you knocking on the athletic director's
Oh.
door.
It's funny. There's two athletic directors that I remember, Max Lederer and Mr. Ames. Max Lederer had 4 sons my age. And he liked myself enough that he took me to summer AAU meets, track meets. You're always looking for something to do when you're a kid, and they had all kinds of meets, which I knew nothing about. My mother raised 6 of us by herself, so there was no dad in the home. He passed away when I was about 10, turning 11. So my mother is not athletic or a jock or even a spectator. She will watch the Bills on TV, though. So anyway, I do remember going down all the time and asking him, hey, when are we going to get volleyball? When are we going to get field hockey? What's going on? We did have a girls' basketball team, and 5 people play. Track and field just seemed like the right thing to do because it included so many different events and skill level. I do remember after high school, I would come back from N-Trip. I went there for the first 2 years, and I would come back and teach them everything I learned. I tried out for volleyball team in college. I had no experience. I had 0 experience with any kind of organized volleyball, and just really paid attention to what was going on because I knew I needed to be a starter. And so I worked my butt off until I was, and I loved the sport. Had so much fun doing that. And subsequent to that, I ended up running a volleyball league down at Widewaters for about 10 years. And so that was pretty cool. That brought a couple hundred people down a night. It was a good program. But I played volleyball in college after not playing at all. And I had a really good coach who knew that I hadn't played before. Of course, I didn't make that announcement. I just tried to do everything everybody else was doing. And loved it and ended up faring pretty well with the volleyball.
That is great. At the time when you were in high school, were you aware of Title IX as far as girls' sports goes, or anything? You were
No.
just like, I want to play this, and so help me to play?
I just knew that something was terribly wrong, that the boys had all the opportunities, and there really just weren't a whole lot for girls, unless you had a lot of money and you were going to private skate lessons or whatever. I know the Y did a good job with the swim program, but again, that wasn't for everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
So talk about that. First of all, what did you run in track? What were your events?
Whatever they asked me to run, pretty much. 100 meters, of course it wasn't meters then, it was yards. 100 yards, 220, 440, which is one full lap. And I recruited my sister to come out for the track team, which wasn't really easy, but she's amazing. She was an amazing runner. She still holds a record. I believe it's a league record in the 400. The elements were perfect that day. She ran like a gazelle, and she set a league record. And it was a fabulous day. But it was fun running with her because I would lead off if it was the 4x4 relay. I would lead off and she would anchor. If it was the Maya relay, same thing. It was fun. It was fun. We didn't have any pressure on us because there weren't a whole lot of girls to impress. But as we moved up, and you mentioned the girls' first state meet, that was fabulous. It's a little overwhelming coming from Lockport, New York, and going to, where was that state meet? The Boys Academy. Is that anywhere listed?
I don't have that.
Point.
Oh, was it West Point?
West Point Academy. And they did it like the Olympics. All the sections were represented by their colors, and it was pretty exciting. And I thought, for as short as our season is in the spring in Western New York, we'd start the season in snow and end up with 85-degree weather. But it was a great experience while it lasted, and I did enjoy the state meets. It just was so out of our element for Lockport to see that many people in a stadium. Of course, we ran on cinders. and it was funny because if you got certain lanes, you'd have to jump over a couple puddles or realize that there were several dips in the track. And if you ran on the inside lane, there was a couple of water puddles that you really had to avoid. And it's changed so much over the years. I actually live next door to the track, and I'm over there all the time because I'm a walker now. I don't run as much. But the track is amazing. The football field is amazing. It's changed a lot in my lifetime even. And it's just so much more organized as far as equipment and the facility and everything. And I was happy to see it develop like that, and especially happy when I was coaching track and field at the high school. It was a great experience. Learned a lot.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned a little bit like the boys, when they were running against you, they would want to, that was when they went to their best time. What was it like? What was that dynamic like with you and your two friends that you recruited that first like season or two that you're on that boys team?
It was awkward, but I didn't really care because I was doing what I liked and I was doing what I thought I was pretty good at, and I had my chance, so I was going to take advantage of it. And of course, the boys pushed me to be better because they were so much better and fit and stronger and more experience at the organized sports. But sometimes I felt a little odd. Like, I wonder if they think I want to be a boy, or am I there just for the boys, or whatever it was. But it was fun because I had to compete at my highest level to even be able to get a spot in JV and then in varsity. And I don't know, I think it made me better. I don't think it was super easy. It was a little intimidating at times. We'd go to different places and they'd be eyeballing us girls like, what are they doing here? You know, but made us stronger, made us better, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And then was there a girls only team before you left?
Yeah, the second year,
Okay.
we probably had over 100 girls come out for the team. We did our series recruiting, and it was great. But track, obviously, is not the easiest sport, and it kind of, you didn't get cut you kind of weaned yourself away from being on the roster. It was tough. You know, we ran a mile to warm up, and then we'd stretch, and then we'd cool down and do a mile. We'd run Cherry Street Hill, Hyde Park. Ron Main was one of the coaches, John Montalvo, of course. I had a lot of coaches, and they just probably really didn't know what to do with us as girls. Obviously, getting into the girls' locker room was an issue. The bathroom was an issue, because they just were unaccustomed to having 3 girls on the bus.
Right.
So I'm sure it was awkward for them as well.
Probably too. Was there, you mentioned you were like running that was what you were talented at, right? That was what you felt. But was there also something about running, and you're still a walker? Is there something about that sport that you feel like really is why you gravitated to that as well as being available?
Yeah, I obviously love watching the Olympics. I'll watch just about any sport. And to see the track and field, I feel like, all right, I need quiet. I got to focus on who's running and what lane and how they're doing. I just have always admired an athletic body and embraced that as this is it. And I just think that it takes a lot of discipline and a lot of hard work and tenacity, because you can't give up because you have a bad day or a bad race or a bad fall. A lot of injuries. Again, we ran on cinders, which was really slippery. I watched a lot of people fall and get cinders embedded in their skin. When I coached, I had to take a couple to the hospital to get the cinders scrubbed out. So that was something I planned on not doing, was falling on a cinder track. I still love track and field. I still watch the Olympics. I do watch the Winter Olympics as well. I just think any athletic performance like that, I know what it took for me to be good at what I was doing, but when I see those athletes compete at that level, like the best in the world, super exciting for me. I feel like this is what you're supposed to do with your body. You know, you're given this body, take full advantage of using it to the best of your ability. And the sport has come so far. I mean, to watch these people run, it's mind-boggling. And the training that they go through now, and now you can do track all year round. Indoor track was a thing, wasn't a thing back then. You know, I cheered off season because I needed something to do. I still love sports. I watch football, I watch basketball, men and women, tennis, whatever's on ESPN that catches my eye, and I enjoy. I'm a sports enthusiast.
Never leaves, right? It never goes away.
I hope it never does. I eagerly await the Bills season like everybody else around here, and try to make it to one game. Not every season, but again, the athletic prowess that these athletes possess, it's mind-blowing when you see how fast and how strong and how huge some of them are, and they run like, it would be like getting hit by a train or a car, you know. It's fascinating. I love it. My husband is an avid athlete. He works out twice a day. He was into weightlifting and bodybuilding for a long time, and he's very disciplined, much more than I ever was. He's at the Y twice a day, and he does 6, 8, 10 miles on the stair climber, and it's very important to him because he has always had discipline in his life, and it works for him. But it's interesting to watch. You know, he can't skip a day. He really doesn't want to skip a day. He's afraid to get off that schedule and that routine. And I always admired that about him, because it does take discipline, and you have to sacrifice, you know, whatever else is going on, because you know you need to work out. So
Right. I want to ask you about coaching.
yeah.
So tell me about coming back to coach, and how, first of all, just take me through how that happened.
Well, I when I was recruited, one of the coaches called me up and asked me, I had finished my teaching certification, but my kids are almost 11 years apart, so I was going to stay home with Thomas for 5 years until he went to kindergarten. And I got a call from John Montalvo, I believe, and he asked me, would I be interested in coaching in the girls' track team or the sprinters, whatever, and I said, absolutely. So he signed me up, and I took some coaching classes and first aid, CPR. I don't know what coaching classes I took, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Again, I live next door to the track, and what's fun about coaching is most of the kids are motivated because they chose to be there. So you were working with kids who wanted to learn, who wanted to get better, who wanted to learn new skills and strategies on how to be a better runner. And I'm a born cheerleader. I was ready to motivate them, and I had a blast coaching. I really did. It was a great experience. I coached girls and boys. We mixed together. Track meets, they're a couple 3 hours. There's a lot of events and a lot of kids, and it was a great experience. I cherish those years as you learn from the kids as much as they learn from you. Just the different personalities and just the different work ethics and things like that. And some kids they just decided, I'm just going to show up and see what happens. And you kind of like to find out where their strengths are, ability-wise. And it was fun to say, why don't you try this event and why don't you try this? Or even little strategies like keep your eyes up here and look for a goal, whatever it is, the little things. And the kids that are so coachable and teachable, you can see they want to get better. They've got that hunger and that desire to be better. So those are the coachable kids that made the job that much more enjoyable. So track and field was fun to coach.
Mm-hmm. And you said you coached both boys and girls.
Yeah.
So was there a difference? Did you notice a difference between coaching the two?
Probably. There was a slight difference. I think that the girls had to think about what they were doing a lot more. We're kind of more cerebral sometimes to think about, planning things out as far as, how they're going to do their race. But what's so nice about getting JV and varsity is to watch them develop over the years, to do things they were afraid to do, to start a race a little bit faster or maybe a little bit slower so that they have something left in the tank when they're finishing. I don't remember a whole lot of difference. The kids, because they had just way more exposure to opportunities than we did. Even in PE, they were doing a lot more skills and sports with specific skills that they needed to develop, in the course of their PE classes. But it's fun to coach kids who are motivated to be there. It wasn't like I was pulling teeth. I was working with kids who signed up. I want to run, I'd like to try this. And it was fun. It was fun. I worked with some really great coaches. John Montalvo comes to mind, and Ron Main. I know there was another one. Of course, down the road, it was Bob Kassler, Pat Seidel, Miles Patterson. There's a few others, but it was fun. I know that when there were girl issues that came up, they were all sent to me. Those types of things I got to deal with. I was the girls' team psychiatrist or psychologist, I guess. And also a cheerleader, so I tried to motivate all of them.
Well, and I think that it does help when you're an athlete, especially a young athlete, that there's a female role model I can go to. There's a female coach, assistant coach, whomever that I can go to with those issues.
Absolutely. And now even, I don't remember as much, but as I coached through the years, watching the teams get more prepared. You'd have a trainer. You'd have people there with some first aid and CPR training, first responders. The trainers were great. I did have the opportunity to work with a couple of them, and they were handy to have there. A lot of injuries in track, you know. Again, you start off and it's freezing cold, and kids go out and start sprinting, and then you're going to have injuries, you know.
And that, yeah, I think people forget about those injuries in track. And then
Oh,
you
yeah.
were coaching. There was still cinder track,
Yeah.
which is you get to learn your track. There's a real home track
Yeah.
advantage.
Oh, yeah.
I think,
That's
right?
home field advantage. That's right. It's true.
Well, you know, you mentioned some of the more like support and training from someone who went to like, you know, knocking on the door saying, when are we going to get volleyball and field hockey? And then to see you come back and help coach or coach volleyball. You're coaching track and an all girls track team after you joined the boys team. So what were you able to see? How did you see like girls sports grow?
Oh, I watched it grow. It was fabulous because my sister, Lenora, 2 years younger than I would come home, like I said, from N trip, and I would go to the high school and teach them every drill I just learned. And I would work with Ken Brownbach. He was the varsity coach at the time. And we learned together. We coached together. We learned together. And that was a lot of fun to coach volleyball as well. But it was fun to watch the girls' sports develop over the years so much. I enjoyed that tremendously. It felt right. It felt like we should be there. We should be represented.
How did you feel the support was?
I didn't need a whole lot of support from a lot of people, so I was encouraged by the people that mattered, the athletic director, my coaches. I really didn't think much about anybody else at the time. You know, when your tunnel vision and your goal is one thing, I didn't really care, you know.
I read they called you a true pioneer for girls track, right? And that's been said about, that's not me original, that has been said about you. When people call you that, I mean, what do you think? Do you see yourself in that way at all?
Yes and no. It seemed very natural at the time. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to run. I was good at running, pretty good at running, and I thought I should probably do this as long as I can. And I enjoyed it, so that made it so much easier for me. But very exciting as I would watch every year after that, the team would be like huge, and the girls' track team reigned first place for years. I don't know how many years. I would love to find out, but for years, Lockport was the team that everybody wanted to beat, and they had a hard time beating us because we were deep. We had a large team.
When you recruited, like you said, like your friend, like that had that 100, you know, and obviously there's attrition that the natural selection that happens out. Were you surprised at how many of your female classmates wanted to be involved with track?
I wasn't really surprised. I was excited because I knew most of them, because I said, you got to try for this track team. And whatever it took for me, you know, I'm saying, I know you're going to be a good high jumper. I mean, look at your legs, you know, or you're going to be a good sprinter, you're fast, or there's a lot of boys on the team and you might want to be there because there's 150 boys on the team. Shot put, discus, I knew who could throw and who was strong, and it was kind of fun. It was kind of fun to recruit.
You know, it sounds like it. Do you have a favorite or some favorite memories from when you were either competing or when you were coaching too?
I have so many memories, so many. Oh my gosh. My sister in the last couple of years reminded me that we were on our way to a state meet in a school bus with no air conditioning in June, and something happened to the bus. Next thing you know, we're on the side of the road, and I don't know who they called, but we ended up getting transported by sheriffs or deputies or somebody. And I remember, I think my sister got in trouble because she kept asking them to play or put the siren on. So that's one memory that definitely sticks out, because we made it to the meet in time, to perform, to run. But, we were on a school bus with no air. And I don't know what meet it was, Cornell, Cortland, something like that. And then you see these people showing up in the coach buses and things like that. So we were kind of, I giggled at the time. Another memory, my senior year, I was class vice president and planned the whole prom. Colors, the song, the theme, the favors. And I couldn't go to the prom because I was at a state meet. The guy I was dating at the time was also at the boys' state meet. And it is what it is. I mean, obviously I lived past it. I wanted to go to the dance. I thought it would be fun. But obviously the track meet was more important to me. And when we got there was a girl on my relay who often had last-minute injuries. And I don't know if she pulled out or the coach pulled her out or said, "I've heard enough from you," and called a peer, Anne, who went to the prom, so I'm sure she had a late night, and I think she had to drive. She got special permission to get there. I think a teacher had to bring her a coach so that she could compete, so the relay could actually compete. That's a memory that sticks out quite a bit. There was just every experience was fun. I mean, we'd go and we'd pretty much camp out for the day. You were there for 4, 5, 6 hours. I don't know. It was fun. It was easy. Running is pretty easy.
So pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah.
There's tactics to it, but it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. And the biggest thing was nerves. But I used to watch my younger sister get so nervous before she'd run that she would try to sleep. She'd just close her eyes and kind of shut down because she was so overwhelmed. And again, she was an amazing runner. I'm looking at these old pictures now, and it just cracks me up because we ran in polyester, heavy, hot polyester uniforms, and we wore the boys' clothes. I don't know if they ordered new shorts or uniforms for us, but we wore what the boys were wearing, and all around it was a great experience. Back then there weren't a whole lot of options, so you did what you did, and you enjoyed the process. And I look back with fond memories of running, laughing, joking around, having fun.
That's so great. Loretta, thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing your memories with us.
It seems like so long ago, but I know that I'm so happy that I was a part of it, and I got to encourage my friends, my peers, and a lot of other people who got to go and try out for the team because somebody had already done it, And I think it maybe was a little bit easier for them, and they didn't have to be as intimidated or embarrassed to want to be on the track team because it was better accepted every year. And once the girls started doing so well, everybody likes to join a winning team, and the team really, really grew, and we turned out some really good athletes from Lockport. Mm-hmm. And it happens every year. There was a group this year, I believe a couple of relays and individual runners qualified for nationals, and they went to Oregon with their coach. So it's just really good news, good stuff.
Good stuff. Laid that foundation on that cinder track you did.
Yeah, by having fun and doing what I did. I'm glad I had that opportunity. I really am. And I'm glad the athletic director, he tried too. They tried, and they brought sports, more and more sports to the high school, and it was great.
All right. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for asking.